Canada wields considerable leverage over Alaska due to its strategic geographic position and deep economic ties with the state. A blockade, however, would involve shutting down the Alaska Highway, a vital lifeline that facilitates nearly all land-based transport of goods and services into and out of Alaska. The implications of such a move would be far-reaching and severe. The economic fallout would be immense, not only threatening Alaska's stability but also reverberating across Canada, where businesses reliant on cross-border trade could face significant disruptions. Amid growing exasperation with persistent tariff threats from the United States, Canada might view closing Alaska's primary road access as a bold, albeit extreme, retaliatory option. As bilateral tensions continue to simmer, the Alaska Highway could easily become the stage for a dramatic and high-stakes geopolitical confrontation, testing the resolve of both nations. Should Canada opt to escalate further, targeting marine access could prove to be a decisive maneuver. Alaska's Inside Passage, a breathtaking 500-mile stretch along the Pacific Ocean, is celebrated for its wildlife-filled fjords, majestic tidewater glaciers, and lush forested islands. Yet its significance extends far beyond its natural beauty. It is a critical artery for the state, with more than 90% of Alaska-bound cargo shipped through this route. Freighters, fishing vessels, and passenger ferries depend on the sheltered Canadian waters of the Inside Passage to avoid the perilous conditions of the open ocean. By blocking this corridor, Canada could force maritime traffic onto longer, rougher, and far less efficient routes, delivering a devastating blow to Alaskan logistics. The state's thriving cruise industry, which welcomed a record 1.65 million passengers to Southeast Alaska in 2023, would also face an existential crisis. A marine blockade would lead to cancelled voyages, substantial revenue losses, and frustrated passengers left stranded in Canadian ports, amplifying the economic and social toll. Adding to this vulnerability is the Prince Rupert Ferry Terminal, a linchpin for Alaskans traveling south to the contiguous United States. This facility, notable as the world's first marine pre-clearance location, its closure would effectively sever Alaska's direct travel connections to the lower 48, isolating the state and disrupting the flow of people and goods. While such actions might appear drastic, they are not beyond the realm of possibility, particularly if tensions reach a breaking point. In contrast, Canada's ability to disrupt air travel offers a less potent threat. US commercial and military flights connecting Alaska to the lower 48 frequently traverse Canadian airspace, a practical necessity given the region's geography. If Canada were to deny overflight rights, aircraft would be rerouted over the Pacific or Arctic, resulting in longer flight paths, higher fuel costs, and increased logistical complexity. While this would undoubtedly inconvenience airlines and passengers alike, it falls short of the crippling impact a land or sea blockade would inflict. Alaska's air infrastructure could adapt to such changes, albeit with operational inefficiencies and delays. The reliance on Canadian air traffic control for seamless coordination adds another layer of vulnerability. Disruptions here could snarl schedules and strain resources. Perhaps more concerning is the potential impact on emergency diversions, where aircraft en route to or from Alaska might need to land in Canada during in-flight crises. Yet even this scenario represents a manageable setback rather than a catastrophic rupture, highlighting the relatively limited leverage Canada holds in the aviation domain. Where Canada's influence truly shines and where the stakes are highest is in its control over Alaska's trade and commerce. The state depends heavily on Canadian routes for essential supplies, including food, fuel, and consumer goods. Imposing punitive tariffs, closing border crossings, or banning specific trade corridors could unleash an economic disaster of unprecedented scale. Shortages of critical resources, from heating fuel to construction materials, would materialize swiftly, driving prices to exorbitant levels and destabilizing Alaska's economy. Canada's dominance in this arena is bolstered by its control over rail and freight networks. With no direct railway linking Alaska to the lower 48, goods must pass through Canadian rail systems and ports, particularly the bustling hub of Vancouver, which handles a massive share of shipments to and from Alaska. Disrupting this flow would effectively dismantle Alaska's logistical backbone, leaving the state scrambling to find alternative supply chains in a region where options are scarce. This interdependence, however, is not one-sided. Annual trade between Alaska and Canada exceeds $1 billion, with Alaska exporting roughly $596 million in goods to Canada and importing $753 million in return. A blockade would inflict significant self-harm on Canada's economy, though its broader push to reduce reliance on the US market might cushion some of the blow. The human cost, however, would be far more profound. Trade with Canada sustains over 20,000 jobs in Alaska, alongside 4,350 workers employed by Canadian-owned businesses operating within the state. These are not mere statistics. They represent families whose livelihoods hinge on the uninterrupted flow of goods and services across the border. As one local leader poignantly noted, "I don't see how the common person benefits. The citizens bear the brunt of this cost." A blockade would jeopardize these livelihoods, threatening the stability of small towns and communities that rely on this cross-border exchange for survival. Given these stakes, would Canada ever commit to a full blockade of Alaska? What level of provocation, whether economic retaliation, political brinkmanship, or diplomatic failure, might push Canada to such an extreme? And how would the United States respond, both to preliminary measures like tolls and to a more comprehensive blockade? These questions demand a nuanced assessment of the delicate interplay between leverage, mutual dependence, and the potential for unintended consequences in an increasingly fraught relationship.